Good afternoon. This week's devotion is Appointed to Save. Whenever the topic of atonement comes up, which means Christ suffering and dying for our sins, I always have all these geeky images pop into my head. I think of Obi-Wan Kenobi sacrificing himself to Darth Vader so that Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie could escape, to bring the Death Star plans to the rebels so that they could save so many planets from destruction. But the most vivid one that comes to mind is from Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. The Enterprise is crippled, its engines are offline, and Khan has set off the Genesis device, which will kill everyone on the ship if they don't get far enough away. But the engine room is flooded with deadly radiation. If you went in to fix it, you would die. Well, Mr. Spock selflessly goes in to fix it. And as he is dying, Captain Kirk sits on the other side of the radiation-proof glass, mourning the suffering and death of his best friend. Spock tells Kirk with his last breath, "Don't grieve, Admiral. It's logical. The needs of the many outweigh," and Kirk finishes for him, "the needs of the few." And Spock replies, "Or the one." Even though it is a great scene about sacrificing oneself for the good of others, it has one thing wrong with this illustration. It's not logic that makes Jesus suffer and die for us. It is love. It is Christ's love and compassion that moves him to sacrifice himself for us, for our salvation. The passage from the letter to the Hebrews for this week also tries to explain this. Listen to Hebrews 5, 1 through 10. Every high priest chosen from among mortals is put in charge of things pertaining to God on their behalf, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sin. He is able to deal gently with the ignorant and the wayward, since he himself is subject to weakness. And because of this, he must offer sacrifice for his own sins as well as for those of the people. And one does not presume to take this honor, but only takes it when called by God, just as Aaron was. So also, Christ did not glorify himself in becoming a high priest, but was appointed by the one who said to him, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you." And as he says also in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. And having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. Here in the book of Hebrews, it talks about how human priests can deal gently with us in their teaching and their interceding with God on our behalf because they're human. They understand what it means to be weak and what it means to be sinful. In Jesus, our loving and faithful God became human. He went through what we go through. Like a human priest, he understands what we go through. He suffered and died because he knew it was the only way to save us. It wasn't the logical thing that Jesus would die because of our sins. It was only the great love for us that made Jesus go to the cross. That is what I think of when theologians talk about atonement. Jesus loved us so much that he was willing to take on our punishment. He was willing to pay for our sins. And that is better than the best movie endings in the world. Have a blessed week.